Super Tuesday is just 1 week from tomorrow, and this afternoon, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley is keeping her word. She's staying in the Republican side of the race, despite a 20-point primary loss to former President Trump in her home state on Saturday. Here now to break down the latest from the campaign trail, our political analysts, Fink and Wendy Patrick, our longtime guests. Welcome back to the fore. We're getting this all started again. How are you doing today?
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
Good to be here.
All right. Wendy, you said you were excited about Super Tuesday. So tell me, why are you excited about Super Tuesday this year?
Every year I get really excited, about the election season. And when you talk about Super Tuesday having so many states in one territory involved, I just think about it from the candidate point of view. You can't be the same thing to every state because every state's unique. So the strategy involved in figuring out how to crisscross the nation and hit all the right issues in all the right places is fascinating to me, and I like to sort of vicariously experience that excitement. That's what we're going to see.
Are we dealing with that as much as that this year, though, with two front runners that are so far out ahead, it seems unlikely there's any real race developing?
Look, we've got Nikki Haley, who's trying to win a lottery ticket, hoping that something can strike down Trump, maybe not before Super Tuesday, but after, and also thinking about her legacy. The fact of the matter is, South Carolina primary, 40% of voters punched the ticket for Nikki Haley. That means Trump has work to do before the November election to encourage those voters to come back to the fold. So that's one of the things we're looking at, a foreshadowing of who's voting for whom in what states to sort of telegraph what might happen in November.
And some people have pointed to that, but a lot of people are asking questions. Is that vote against Donald Trump mostly noise because there's a lot of crossover in the primaries from Democratic voters? Do you think there's real support for Nikki Haley and against Donald Trump in the Republican Party?
Well, two separate issues, and I think you're wise to raise both of them. I don't think that enough are going to cross over to statistically make a difference, but I do think she's got some really interesting arguments about being in a better position to beat Joe Biden. And she's also in an interesting position age-wise to be able to have some demographic characteristics that you can't argue with and that you can't beat. So she is better positioned in some of those areas. What I think is fascinating about the fact that she's still in the race is she's raising a lot of issues, and you talk about leaving a legacy. Who knows? I know she says I don't have a political future. Of course she does. And of course that's part of what's fueling the fire that you see when she's appearing on the campaign trail. Now, sadly, the money's running out. And people are saying, that, well, we're still going to vote for you, but we're not going to, be able to have any more funding. Money talks. And if after Super Tuesday she doesn't have enough of it, that would be the one thing that would end the campaign.
What do you see as her end game otherwise? Does she hold on, trying to hope that something happens to Donald Trump that prevents him from running?
I think a conviction would be the lottery ticket, and the legacy would be the principled opposition and the future of the Republican Party. There are stalwart Trump fans, and there is a reason why he will win this primary election by all the numbers, the way it looks right now. But there's a future, and she's working to represent and be the face of that future.
We'll turn to the Democratic side. President Biden, nominal opposition, nothing really to speak of. That doesn't mean he doesn't have challenges going into the general. What do you see as his biggest challenges? It's off in the distance, but right now, what are the things that are hurdles for him going into the general?
I think had you asked me that a month ago, I would have said the economy followed by the border. Nowadays, there's a lot of talk about Israel, his positions there. That's probably the issue I've heard more about in the last week than anything else. Although as a practical matter, it's still the economy. He can talk all day long about how well we're doing, but we feel it. And I know a lot of people, and I have a lot of Democratic friends that say, yes, we do value democracy, but we want to be able to put food on the table even more than we value democracy. And they feel that way at the grocery store, at the gas pump. They're also looking, as a practical matter, at any decline that he might have cognitively. And I don't know what we call that, because everybody gets older, and Donald Trump isn't far behind him. Yeah. But they look at that, they're almost afraid to talk about it, but I have a feeling that it's going to impact, if there were another opportunity, who they might vote for.
The youth vote really carried Democrats to the midterm victories, if you really broke it down. A lot of people think so anyway. is that going to be a problem for Donald Trump? This is our last one. Is that going to be a problem for Joe Biden going into the general, getting enthusiasm there again for a big turnout?
Absolutely. I mean, it is his primary challenge. And the youth vote is emblematic of that overall problem of bringing the Democratic family under the tent. Because right now he's got problems with the base, young people. Wendy, I think, made a great point when she talked about the three issues that are kind of leading the charge right now. And that issue of the Palestinians, our relationship to Israel, and the foreign policy issues that Biden is in disagreement with a good chunk of his base. We'll see that played out potentially in Michigan tomorrow. Watch for that Arab American vote and see where it goes.
All right. Big day tomorrow. Like I said, Michigan's a big vote as well. And Super Tuesday next week. I know we'll talk to you more. I want to thank you for your insight ahead of time. Appreciate you guys for all you do.
Thank you very much.
Heather?